Talk is bubbling in China and Russia again about a natural gas deal that would link the two countries together. On the surface, this seems like a no-brainer. Honestly, why hasn't it happened before? Russia is the largest exporter of commodities in the world. China is the largest importer of raw commodities in the world. It seems that there should already be a very robust trading relationship between the two, but there's not. Until now, most of the public and even private debate between the two, the negotiations over a natural gas deal, have focused on price. The Chinese want to pay no more than about $150 per 1,000 cubic meters, which they say is the domestic price of natural gas in their country, and they're right. The Russians say that they will accept nothing less than the European price, which is $350 to $400 per 1,000 cubic meters, which is what they say they charge all their other customers, which is also right. It's not that price isn't an issue, but the real problem is not the price of the natural gas, but the price of the project. Russia and China, while they seem to be right next to each other on a map, are very large places. Their population centers are wildly divergent, several thousand kilometers apart. And the natural gas in Russia, for the most part, is nowhere near the population centers in China. There is one field, a large one, the Kovykta field in eastern Siberia, that's fairly close. Kovykta is about 3,000 kilometers from Beijing, but the natural gas really needs to go further south to the southern coast of China. Based on location, that adds another 1,000 to 2,000 kilometers to the pipeline. And Kovykta simply isn't large enough to make a meaningful dent in Chinese energy demand. For that, you have to go much, much farther to the northwest into north-central Siberia. So now you're talking about a natural gas project that is 7, 8, maybe even 9,000 kilometers long. Most of it through completely virgin wilderness, so the cost of development would be ridiculously high. This is not like building a natural gas pipeline from Canada to the United States, where there's already a robust road and rail network. This is going through swamps, this is going through mountains, this is going around Mongolia. This is a huge project. Conservatively, very conservatively, this is a $100 billion infrastructure project. More realistically, it's more like $300 billion. And that doesn't even include the cost of building a natural gas grid in China in order to take advantage of the gas. Even now, the Chinese do not have a unified system like most states. The distance and cost issue should, on its own merits, explain why this project has been under discussion for over a decade but really hasn't gone anywhere. But there is one more reason. The two countries simply don't trust each other all that much. Both have had territorial designs on the other in the past, and while relations are certainly at their warmest point in the last 50 years, they're not perfect. In fact, the Russians have shown vibrantly that they are willing to invest tens of billions of dollars in projects that make themselves less dependent on the Chinese. A good example is the ESPO pipeline, East Siberia Pacific Ocean. Starts in the area of the Kovykta field gathering oil supplies and ships it out to the Pacific coast. All told, this is a $50 billion project once you take into account the 4,000 kilometers of pipe, the superport on the Pacific Ocean, the refineries along the way, and all the various assorted infrastructure that was required simply to be able to build the pipeline. The Russians could have built a much shorter, cheaper pipeline to China directly, but the Russians wanted to make sure that they had access to the wider world and a variety of customers, rather than being held hostage to the prices that the Chinese may or might not pay if they had a dedicated pipeline. And so the future of energy cooperation between the two countries will undoubtedly grow, but to a $300 billion infrastructure tag, that's pretty doubtful. And timing is a big issue here too. The Russians have been working for the last 35 years to build one of these mega projects, starting in the Yamal Peninsula, going down to Europe. That project is now finally nearing operational status, but it took 35 years and tens of billions of dollars of investment. Even if the Chinese do agree with the Russians on every aspect of what would be the world's largest infrastructure project ever, it's not going to come online before 2030.